So I'm watching every single Criterion film, and in this video I have The Long Good Friday, which is like a gangster crime film that follows Harold Shand, a London gangster who sees himself not as a thug but as a businessman, a deal maker, a visionary. He wants to transform criminal wealth into legitimate power, especially through redevelopment projects tied to London's dockland. He is hosting American investors and trying to present London as a place of opportunity, stability, and scale. At the same time, he is preparing a major underworld alliance that would secure his future. Then everything starts to unravel. A string of bombings and murders hits Harold's operation, and the attacks feel less like random violence than like a coordinated dismantling of his world. The film turns into a slow-motion collapse. Harold scrambles to identify who is behind it, while his confidence curls into paranoia, rage, and desperation. The most frightening part is that he cannot understand the new forces moving against him. He's used to a world where violence has rules, loyalties, invisible enemies. Here, the threat is diffused, political, and impersonal. By the end, the film delivers a devastating reversal where Harold's grand plans are not only destroyed but exposed as naive. He believes he was helping shape the future. In reality, the future has already arrived and it does not need him. Harold is a self-inventing man. He performs authority constantly in his suits, his speech, his swagger, his public confidence. He speaks like a businessman because he wants to believe criminality can be laundered into respectability. The film keeps showing how fragile the performance he puts on is. The moment the situation slips out of his control, the mask cracks. His power has always depended on everyone else agreeing to play along. The film is saturated with transition. London is changing from the old dockside underworld into a more modern, corporate, internationally connected city. Harold tries to ride that change, but he does not understand it. He ends up looking messy and weak. He thinks he can buy into the next era while preserving his old methods. And the film suggests that this is impossible, and every passing second is hinting at his impending doom. The criminal class that Harold represents is being replaced by something more abstract, more professional, and arguably more ruthless. And one of the film's sharpest ideas is that Harold's underworld logic and the logic of legitimate business are not as different as he imagines. He talks like an entrepreneur and negotiates like a mogul and dreams like a property developer. The film blurs the line between gangster capitalism and respectable capitalism. That is why the American investors matter so much, because they symbolize a new form of power that Harold can recognize but cannot control. Harold imagines himself as a strong English operator, a man who can make London great again in his own crooked way. But the city and the nation are beyond his reach. The violence around him feels like a punishment for arrogance, but also like a historical reckoning. He's not just losing a criminal war, he is being shoved aside by a world that has no use for his fantasies of dominance. Harold's masculinity is built on control, intimidation, and emotional containment, and the film keeps testing those limits. Bob Hoskins plays him as a man who can go from charm to menace in a breath. As the pressure increases, that masculinity becomes less impressive than pathetic. His rage cannot restore order. It only reveals how little authority he truly has. Bob Hoskins gives a magnificent performance because he makes Harold both magnetic and weak. Harold is often funny, almost friendly, even glamorous in his own grubby way. He has the instincts of a host, a salesman, and a political operator, but Hoskins lets the panic leak through the performance in tiny shifts like the tightening of his face, the change in his voice, the sudden violence of his reactions. What is remarkable is that Harold never becomes a simple fool. Even as his world collapses, he remains intelligent, strategic, and dangerous. That complexity is what makes the performance tragic. Hoskins doesn't play him as a king who falls. He plays him as a man who never realized how exposed he already was. Helen Mirren's Victoria is crucial because she is not merely the gangster's girlfriend or trophy partner. She is the one person who sees Harold clearly, and Mirren gives her a cool intelligence that cuts through his swagger. Victoria represents both loyalty and moral distance. She is emotionally involved but not deluded. Her presence gives the film a necessary counterweight to the masculine drama around Harold. She understands his charisma, but she is not hypnotized by it. The supporting players help build the film's texture of a criminal ecosystem that feels lived in rather than stylized. The gangsters around Harold are not colorful characters so much as pieces of a system of enforcers, lieutenants, opportunists, and frightened men, all responding to pressure. And that realism is part of why the film feels so tense. Nobody is just there to deliver exposition. Everyone looks like they belong to the same bruised social world. John McKenzie directs with remarkable discipline. He keeps the film grounded but never dull. The atmosphere is stylish without becoming glossy. There is a persistent sense that danger is embedded in ordinary spaces like restaurants, hotels, cars, offices, streets. That everyday quality makes the violence more disturbing because it feels like an intrusion into a functioning social order rather than an eruption from a separate crime movie world. The film's structure is masterful because it withholds certainty. We experience Harold's confusion in real time. He keeps trying to impose a narrative on events, but the film refuses easy explanation. That uncertainty is the point. Mackenzie turns paranoia into a form. The story feels like a tightening net because the camera and editing keep narrowing Harold's options. The city is not just a backdrop either. London is filmed as a space of transition, decaying and modernizing at the same time. The docks, roads, hotels, and offices all suggest a city being repurposed. Mackenzie uses that environment to externalize Harold's issues issue. Everything around him is changing faster than he can adapt. Then the ending is the film's most brutal achievement because it feels both shocking and inevitable. Mackenzie does not treat the final turn as a mere twist. It is the logical completion of the film's argument. Hale's world was built on assumptions that no longer hold. The direction makes that collapse feel cold, precise, and almost historical. The Long Good Friday is still an incredible film because it is not simply a gangster film with political decoration. The politics are the gangster story. Hale's rise and fall are inseparable from Britain's economic and social transformation. The film understands that crime and power are always in conversation with the larger systems around them. Hale thinks he is a force of history. The film shows he is only a temporary recipient of it. It is also a crime film that gives its protagonist the dignity of complexity without asking us to admire him. Harold is vivid, funny, frightening, and doomed. That is why the film feels alive, and I give The Long Good Friday an A++, a 10 out of 10, a 5 stars. This film is easily the best film that I've seen so far in the Criterion collection, which doesn't mean a lot, but I still think, I haven't seen the other Godfather films, I've only seen the first one because I saw it in theaters. I still like Godfather a lot more. But let me know your thoughts down below if you've seen The Long Good Friday, if you liked it, if you didn't like it. I would like to hear your thoughts down below, and don't forget to like and follow.